Hi, I'm Rajita, the co-founder and CEO of Mantaray. I want you to take a minute and look around this room. The venue, the food, the drinks, the banners, the signs, and think about how much CO2 was emitted to put on this event. That's the question that the big corporations in Australia are going to be forced to answer next year once the new climate disclosure regulations come into effect. Even without those regulations, big companies like Amazon have announced that they will only purchase from suppliers that report as well as show their emissions reductions plans. And even Coca-Cola have committed to purchasing only from climate-positive suppliers. Now, imagine that you're a small regional distributor and 70% of your revenue comes from Coca-Cola. Or you're an Amazon reseller and your entire income relies on you being on this website. What would you do if, in order to keep this big corporate customer that's your bread and butter, you're told that not only do you need to do everything you're already doing, but you also need to record, report, and reduce your emissions? Those are the businesses that Mantaray is committed to empowering, and this is how we're doing it.
Jane works as a sustainability manager at a mid-sized company. It's her responsibility to make sure her company meets their emissions reduction goals. Jane knows that most of their emissions come from their supply chain, but she struggles to reduce these emissions. She has to manually collect information from each potential supplier to compare sustainability data. Many suppliers don't get back to her or take too long to respond, and the information becomes out of date quickly, meaning Jane is constantly requesting, chasing, or updating data. Jane needs help, but the only option she knows of is bringing in consultants, which would cost her company hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. With Mantaray, Jane can access live tracking of her company's supply chain emissions in seconds by securely linking the company's bank account. The AI-powered platform instantly allows Jane to see how suppliers' emissions and social sustainability practices compare against their peers and browse between other climate-friendly alternatives, saving months of work and expensive consulting fees. With Mantaray, Jane can spend less time collecting sustainability data and more time on her main job, guiding the business to make more sustainable decisions in order to meet their goals.
That is a happy Jane, isn't it? So I guess, hopefully everyone's got in their brain now, I wonder what the cost is for me sitting on this seat to our planet. And so that question that everybody should have in their mind, tell me where your connection to that sort of question for yourself came from, Rajita.
Yeah, sure. So this started when I found myself in Jane's shoes back when I was working as a corporate lawyer. We were setting the emissions reductions plans at the company I was working at, and I discovered firsthand what a nightmare the process was. The entire thing was manual. We had to deal mainly with SME suppliers to gather this data from them, and most of them had no idea what information we were even asking for. And around that time, I started talking to other sustainability managers and consultants, asking them how they were doing it. And it turned out they were basically doing it the exact same way. They were literally populating an Excel spreadsheet with each cells for each of their hundreds or thousands of suppliers they had. And this process took months. The data became out of date really quickly, and it was costing them up to $200,000 a year. But they were still doing it because they couldn't figure out an alternative. And this was back when climate disclosure was entirely voluntary. But I also had the experience of working at an ASX 100 corporation. The first year, the modern slavery reporting was mandatory. And again, it was a similar process of we had to gather data from SME suppliers in order for us to be able to do our reporting for compliance purposes. And so the pressure was being pushed on these SMEs who'd never heard of the concept of modern slavery to actually provide this information in order to keep this big corporate customer. And the same thing is going to play out again with the new climate disclosure regulations. And that's why I'm committed to Mantaray, and I've joined forces with my technical co-founder, Stefan, over here. We're both committed to impact, and that's why we're building this.
Yeah, that's like a real incredible insight that you bring that I don't think many people would have, forcing SMEs to report their data on the building policies for the Modern Slavery Act. Who knew that that would become so useful for climate change? So you talked about SMEs. There are quite a lot of solutions out there already. Are there lots? What kind of things those solutions built for?
Absolutely. I mean, there are some great solutions out there, but they're almost exclusively built for big enterprise. They're either very high price point, highly customized solutions, or they're platforms that rely on a dedicated sustainability analyst sitting there and doing manual data entry in order for the platform to work. Now, this is not accessible for most SMEs, and that's why we built our platform to work for time and resource poor, busy SMEs that are managing this in addition to everything else that they're doing. And it's worth noting that, yes, there are platforms out there that do help SMEs measure their emissions. There's platforms out there that help them offset their emissions. But most of the regulations and sustainability frameworks acknowledge that that's not enough. Everyone is now going to be required to also reduce their emissions. And that's the piece that we're focused on. For example, we worked with Techstars, and through our platform, we managed to reduce the emissions for today's event by 21%. Without affecting the budget.
That's incredible.
Please don't take my word for it. Please talk to the program team later to get confirmation. But often the low carbon alternative was just as affordable as what the original thing they were considering was. It was just a matter of making more data-driven, informed choices.
So what you're saying is, for your startup, your first pilot customer is the world's largest pre-seed investor. Is that what we're saying? It's a great pilot study, and I know that there's a lot of information on the menus and so on, aren't there, Ajita, about the carbon emissions?
Yeah, definitely. We worked with the caterer for this event just on the menu. So if you go to the grazing table, you'll be able to see the emissions breakdown of the food that we'll be consuming tonight.
That's fantastic. So, Rajita, there's going to be lots of SMEs in here, and they'll all be feeling the pressure that the big corporates above them might be putting on them to supply their emissions data. Tell us a bit about your business model.
It's very simple. It's a straight SaaS subscription for the businesses that are tracking and reducing their emissions. And we're built to be SME friendly, so it's a quick sign up. You can get onboarded in a minute or so, and then you're good to go.
So you're in market with paying customers, and you're ready to go and bring on more.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, while preparing for Demo Day, we just onboarded a new customer, and they approached us because they'd used another carbon accounting tool to measure their emissions, but then they found themselves stuck on how to reduce them, which is exactly what we're here to do.
That's fantastic. What great validation. And what's your vision for Mantaray?
Ultimately, want to have supply sustainability data as available at fingertips for smallest of small businesses as well as larger corporates so they can make informed choices.
Fantastic. If you're looking to invest in the future of the world, come and see Mantaray.
Absolutely.